Welcome to this week's video. On this week's video I'm going to give you 5 cons and 5 pros of the Renault Zoe. I've had my Zoe for about a year and I've actually never ever done a review on my own car. I've done reviews on BMW i8s, Tesla Model X's, Jaguar I-Pace, Nissan Leafs, but I've never actually reviewed the Renault Zoe. So today I'm going to give you a review on the Renault Zoe and what I actually think of it. So before I get into the meat of my new video, can I just say thank you very much to all my new subscribers. If you're not subscribed yet, please consider clicking the subscribe button down below. Please also click the bell icon, that'll notify you every time I upload a new video, which so far is every single Saturday. Never missed one without fail yet, but I'll probably be missing some in a couple of weeks because I'll be going on my stag do because I'm getting very married later on this year, if you don't already know. So firstly, it's been very hard to find 5 cons of my car, but I'll start off with one which isn't a problem for me, but many other people find it a problem. And that's in the boot. These seats are not split folding. Now I'm going to split them up for you now and drop them down and show you what it's like. Basically, like I said, they don't do what they call a 20/20 split. So I'm going to show you how that's done. Take the parcel shelf out so you can see a bit better. There's a trigger button here and a trigger button here. And that folds the seats. So I'll just show you them. Now you can probably see they don't go completely flat, but there is a bulkhead here anyway, which is that. But you can take them out. And to take them out, once they're folded, you need to put a key in there which will move that bracket. And then you do the bracket on the other side and this part lifts completely out. So you can have a bit more room than what you get than that. So it's a slightly redeeming feature rather than the 20/30 split, but not ideal if you're wanting to fit someone in the back and then something long down the middle. So far it's not caused me a problem yet, but I know other people will want to fit long items, maybe have a child with them, and obviously 2 parents driving there, so it can become a problem for some people. The Nissan Leaf obviously does have a double split seat, and some cars even have the option of folding each individual seat and taking each individual seat out. So it's a little bit annoying, but it's not really a big problem for me. Now this would not be a Renault Zoe review if you didn't talk about the big elephant in the room. It's mentioned on every single review video, and how do I know? Because when I was looking for Renault Zoe reviews, it is one of the reviews that came up on every review. Someone mentioned this as a con. I'll show you. Yes, I have done it. I have shown you the problem that every single reviewer talks about it on the Renault Zoe, which is the poor cup holder design. Every single video mentions this, and I think it's because they can't really find a list of things to comment bad about the Zoe. But let me explain. This one here is a French cup design. Also, it fits one very common fancy energy drink that a lot of people drink, which is it fits a can of Red Bull. Now, in France, those size cans are very popular, which is why it has that size can holder. This just about fits a normal can of Coke, and the same with the back one here. Now, out of all of them, the back one's about the best out of all of them because it can fit bigger cups and it can fit the big cola bottles and stuff like that. One of the other things is charge versatility, and what I mean by this is, number one, you don't get a granny cable included with the Renault Zoe. Now, it's not a big matter to me. I've never really used a granny cable. I only really use it at work to demonstrate how charging works and other possibilities. So I never really use a granny cable ever. There's some people that swear by them and certain journeys wouldn't be possible without them. Renault could include it in the price, but they'd also just put the price up to include the cable. So I kind of not that bothered about it not being included. Some people obviously say that the Nissan Leaf obviously includes it, but if you do want the Zoe granny cable, you can buy one. There is one on my About section on my channel page, on my YouTube channel, so if you click that you can buy a link there. That's one that works with the Zoe. It works with other EVs as well if you've got a Type 2 plug. The other part about the charging versatility is you've only got Type 2. On the new Zoes, old Zoes, it's just Type 2. There's no CCS, there's no CHAdeMO, it's just Type 2. Another point, really bad con for me, is they're fairly noisy at charging. Now, you're hearing two noises at the moment. One, you're hearing the granny cable, which is this really deep hum, and then there's a high-pitched squeal coming from the actual Zoe. Now that squeal gets louder if you're on a higher power rapid charger. The higher power the rapid charger, the higher the squeal noise, the louder it is. Now I'm going to put the microphone really, really close so you can just hear this one. My shoe microphone shouldn't pick up the other one, so you should just be able to hear this high squeal pitch, and that is it's a bit of a con because some of the other electric cars don't make the same high-pitched noise that the Zoe does. They all have a little bit of a noise, but the Zoe's one of the loudest. So I'll let you listen into what it sounds like. Now, last but not least for a con is battery lease. Now this is going to be in also the pro list in a second, but many people find the battery lease is a con and they don't think it's a good part of the Renault Zoe ownership. Now, I'm actually pro battery lease, but I'm going to describe now what people think are the negatives are of the battery lease. Now, one of the cons is you have to continually pay a battery lease figure to Renault RCI. You have to continue paying that battery lease, and it steps up regarding what mileage you are. I've done other videos about the battery lease, so I'm not going to go into it too much, but basically you have to continue paying it. Now, you can buy a Renault Zoe iModel, also a video about that, top right, click it, it'll tell you how to find an iModel. They are battery owned versions. They cost more used and they cost more new, so they are available. So this is why I don't understand the people that find it a con. Now, one of the cons might be that as of today, 2018, we're halfway through the year, there is no way of buying out a battery lease on a Renault Zoe. So if you've got a battery lease model, you can't ring RCI and ask to buy out the battery lease. There is no way of doing it. Yes, it was possible on the Leafs, and they will do it on the Leafs, but there's not one person who's done it on the Zoe. If you can find me one actual physical piece of proof that someone has done it, then send it me. But anyone who's told you they have is lying. There is no one who has done it as of yet. There's no proof, there's just occasional flutters of rumours that it might be possible, but no one has done it. I assure you, do not go and buy a Renault Zoe battery lease model if you have the optimisation that you're going to be able to buy it out. There may change in the future, it may even be given away, but I am not starting a rumour mill. As far as I know, of 2018, there is no way of doing it. You will always have to pay the battery lease, so don't buy on those assumptions that you'll ever be able to buy it out. Then when people go on about the battery lease, they go on about saying that it'll make the second-hand price of the car hard to sell. At the end of the day, I'm selling one with a battery lease. I'm a car dealer. I'm not going to go and buy lease models if I think I won't be able to sell them and they're going to lose a fortune of money while they're in stock. I certainly won't own one, which I do. I own one. So if I own a battery lease model, I sell battery lease models. I'm not really that bothered. At the end of the day, people will adjust the prices correspondingly. So if you at the moment, the Zoes are extremely cheap value for money. You get a lot of newish car for not little money, and that is because the lease part of it is factored into the second-hand value. That's why they drop so much from new originally, and it's why you can get such cracking deals on them now new. So now I'm going to go through the pros. Now, one of the pros is obviously, I might as well carry on my battery lease conversation. One of the pros for me is battery lease, and without going into too much detail, number one, it's a pro for me because it's a cheaper buying cost from new. It makes the car very cheap to buy new. You can pick a new one up for around about £12,800 on a battery lease. Second hand, they range from as low as sort of £3,500, £4,000, going upwards slightly at each barrier. So they're extremely good value for money on the battery lease, and that is because of the battery lease. The battery owned models new are around £18,500, £19,000, and you'll pay an extra £4,000 or £5,000 for a used version of the same calibre. So it gives you an idea that it's, to me, it makes the price a little bit more affordable on a Zoe. And you've got to factor in the fact that roughly what the battery lease will cost will still be less than fuel after charging, etc. So it still makes perfect sense financially, but long term, if you're keeping it, then obviously buy a battery owned model. The other benefit for me is the lifetime warranty of the battery. The state of health is guaranteed by RCI that if it drops below a certain point, you'll get a new battery, and you get free breakdown included for unlimited call outs. Even if you run out of charge 5 times a day, they will pick you up and take you to the nearest charge point. There's not many breakdown companies that will do that. If you break down several times for the same reason, usually they cover you for one reason first only, but with the Renault Zoe's recovery package that's included with the battery lease payments, they will pick you up unlimited times. So that is enough about battery lease. I've had enough of ever explaining this argument. Go and check out the old videos regarding battery lease if that is still a problem for you. Another pro for me is the versatility of the Zoe charging system. Now, this one is the 22 kilowatt R model that I've got here. There's a video on how to tell which is the Q and R, but even the R model on the new R110 and obviously the previous generations, the R model can charge on 3-phase power. Now, there's not many electric EVs that can do this. This will charge up to 22 kilowatts on AC. The Q model, which I've done videos about previously, will charge 43 kilowatts AC 3-phase. Now, the advantage of 3-phase charging is if you work at commercial property, they will have access to 3-phase power, and they'll be able to install 3-phase work chargers to charge the Zoe up quicker, freeing up the charge spacing quicker. It just makes it really versatile. Even the earlier Tesla Model S's, you could pay for dual charging. They only went up to 11 kilowatt charging on 3-phase, where the Zoe's versatility of 22 and 46 kilowatt 3-phase is amazing. Now, if the new generation Zoes next year, when they finally put the CCS plug in, also has 3-phase charging up to 22 kilowatt and 50 kilowatt CCS, that will be the most amazing versatile charging infrastructure of any EV for sale. But at the moment, the versatility of this is still fantastic. The fact that you can charge on 3-phase power. This is a really quick one. It drives really well. It drives fantastic. In fact, all EVs do, not just the Zoe. All EV cars drive great. I particularly like the way the regen works on the Zoe. Rather than being a harsh regen when you let go of the accelerator, the regen pedal is very slight when you completely no accelerator, and the extreme faster, more powerful regen is controlled on the brake throttle. So the more brake you apply, the more regen you get before engaging the brake disc, and that to me makes it a lot easier for a normal ICE driver to move to an EV, because it's a little bit more understandable to get your head around if you're making that switch. But they do just drive fantastic. All EVs. I've not driven one EV yet that I haven't liked driving, so they all drive fantastic. They have an extremely cheap buying price, and that to me is a massive pro. They're one of the cheapest EVs around that you can buy new and second hand, and that makes them a fantastic buy. One of the big ones I actually think it's one of the best designed EVs for the price range. And by that, I don't just mean its looks, which, let's be honest, it's a good looking BEV. One of the best looking BEVs. The Leaf first generation is very ugly. Second generation, it's growing on me. I really quite like it, actually, the second generation. But anyone who actually thinks the first generation Leaf is good looking is very rare. There's very few people who actually will admit that it is not a pretty car, the first generation Leaf. But also the actual design. So, for example, the charge port in there is fantastic. When you saw my review of the Jaguar I8 a couple of weeks ago, they put it in like a petrol cap design, and it ruins the lines of a car. If there's no reason for the tank to be at the back, there's no reason for the tank to be there. So, this little charge port here I think is great design. The overall look of the car, the design, the styling, I just think it's absolutely beautiful for its price range. Again, even these like cool blue tint to the lights at the back, the fading blue badges that peel, which you kind of replace to silver, but the whole design concept of the car to me is just fantastic. I just think it's a beautiful car. Thanks so much for watching this week's video. Don't forget to click the subscribe button here and watch my other videos here. If you've got a guest vlog that can compete with Elle's guest vlog, which appeared last week, please submit your entry, click my about page on my YouTube page and let me know what video you could do for me, which would be interesting. Thanks again for watching and I'll see you again next week. Goodbye.